Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. The CBSE Board has released a sample question paper of all subjects of class 10th and 12th a couple of days ago. In this video, we will analyze the sample paper of Social Science of class 10 published by the board. It's going to be an in-depth analysis of the question paper pattern, the blueprint and the sample question paper. Please watch the video till the end. The question paper has 37 questions. The question paper is divided into 6 sections A, B, C, D, E and F. In section A, there are 20 multiple choice questions carrying 1 mark each. In section B, there are 4 questions from question number 21 to 24. Each of these questions carries 2 marks. Answers to these questions should not exceed 40 words. Totally, 8 marks are allotted for such very short answer type questions. Section C has 5 questions carrying 3 marks each. They are from question number 25 to 29. Answers to these questions should be within 60 words. Totally, 15 marks are allotted for such short answer questions. Section D has 4 long answer questions carrying 5 marks each. They are from question number 30 to 33. Answers to these long answer questions should not exceed 120 words. 20 marks are allotted for this section. Section E is devoted to questions on case-based studies. There are 3 such cases given in this section. They are from question number 34 to 36. Each of these questions has a paragraph followed by 2 1-mark questions and 1 2-mark question. 12 marks are allotted for this section. These questions mainly test your ability to comprehend the passage and apply your understanding. Section F has map questions carrying 5 marks. 2 of them are from the lesson Nationalism in India and the remaining 3 are from different geography lessons. We will see how to practice and become perfect in map questions later in this video. Thus, the question paper has 6 sections from A to F and it is for 80 marks. The remaining 20 is obtained by you in the internal assessments held in your schools. Let's see which lesson has been given how much weightage marks wise. Let me reiterate that this analysis is of the sample question paper published by the board. There may be changes in the weightage given to different lessons in the board exam. Nevertheless, let's begin with history. First, the lesson Rise of Nationalism in Europe. The long answer question carrying 5 marks is asked on this lesson with an internal choice. 5 marks are allotted for this lesson. Next, Nationalism in India. 1 multiple choice question, 1 3-mark question with internal choice are asked on this lesson. 2 map questions are also asked. Totally, 6 marks are allotted for this lesson. Third, the making of a global world. 1 MCQ and 1 2 marks question are asked on this lesson. Totally, 3 marks are allotted for this lesson. Fourth, the age of industrialization. 1 case-based question is asked on this lesson, the age of industrialization. This lesson has 4 marks weightage. Finally, 2 objective type questions are asked on the lesson Print Culture and the Modern World. This lesson has been given 2 marks weightage. Thus, in history, there are 4 MCQs, 1 2 marks question, 1 3 marks question, 1 5 marks question, and 1 case-based question along with 2 map questions. All these sum up to 20 marks. Let's go to geography. First, the lesson Resources and Development. Only 1 MCQ is asked on this lesson. So is the case with the second lesson, Forest and Wildlife Resources. Only 1 MCQ is asked on this lesson. Third, Water Resources. 1 case-based question carrying 4 marks is asked on this lesson. 1 map question is also asked. Totally, this lesson has been given 5 marks weightage. The fourth lesson, Agriculture, has been given 1 mark weightage. Only 1 MCQ is asked. Next, the lesson Minerals and Energy Resources. 1 2 marks question is asked on this lesson with an internal choice. 1 map question is also asked. This lesson has been given 3 marks weightage. On the next lesson, manufacturing industries, one long answer question carrying 5 marks is asked. This question has an internal choice. One map question is also asked. 6 marks weightage is given to this lesson. Finally, the lesson lifelines of the national economy. One 3 marks question and a map question are asked on this lesson. This lesson has been given 4 marks weightage. Thus, in geography, there are 3 MCQs, one 2 marks question, one 5 marks question, one case-based question, and 4 map questions. Out of the 4 map questions, you are required to answer any 3. All these sum up to 20. I would like to say 2 things here. You may be wondering why the lessons like agriculture, forest and wildlife resources, and resources and development have been given just 1 mark weightage. You probably know that the 4 parts of social science, that is history, geography, democratic politics, and economics, have been given equal weightage of 20 marks each. In geography, there are 7 lessons. 20 marks need to be distributed across these 7 lessons. Naturally, 2 or 3 lessons will have less weightage, marks-wise. Who knows, these lessons may be given more weightage in the board exam, and other lessons may get lesser weightage. It's always better to study all the lessons thoroughly. The second thing which I would like to speak about is the map items. Including 2 questions from history, there are 5 questions asked. It's easy to score these 5 marks. I'll take you to my website later in this video and show how to practice these map items and become perfect. Let's move over to democratic politics. First, the lesson power sharing. 2 MCQs are asked on this lesson. A case-based question carrying 4 marks is also asked. This lesson has been given a weightage of 6 marks. Next, the lesson federalism. Only 2 MCQs are asked on this lesson. This lesson has 2 marks allotted. Third, gender, religion, and caste. One 2-mark question is asked on this lesson. This lesson also has been given 2 marks weightage. Fourth, political parties. There is 1 MCQ asked on this lesson. The long answer question carrying 5 marks is also asked on this lesson. 6 marks are allotted for this lesson. Finally, outcomes of democracy. 1 MCQ and 1 3-mark question are asked on this lesson. 4 marks are allotted for this lesson. Thus, in democratic politics, we have 6 MCQs, 1 2 marks question, 1 3 marks question, 1 5 mark question, and 1 case-based question. All these sum up to 20 marks. Finally, let's go to economics. First, the lesson development. 2 MCQs are asked on this lesson. This lesson has been given 2 marks weightage. Next, sectors of the Indian economy. 2 MCQs are asked on this lesson. 1 2 marks question and 1 3 marks question are also asked on this lesson. This lesson has been given a weightage of 7 marks. Third, money and credit. 1 MCQ is asked on this lesson. 1 long answer question carrying 5 marks is also asked. This lesson thus carries 6 marks weightage. Finally, the lesson globalization. 2 MCQs are asked along with 1 3 marks question. This lesson has a weightage of 5 marks. Thus, in economics, 7 MCQs, 1 2 marks question, 2 3 marks question, and 1 5 mark questions are asked. All these sum up to 20 marks. Now that we have seen the blueprint and also seen how many marks have been allotted for different lessons, it's time we start analyzing the actual sample paper published by the board. In the process, I may be taking you to different tabs. If necessary, I'll take you to the sample paper published by the board as well. I surely will take you to engross.in for 1 or 2 reasons. Well, this question paper comprises of 5 sections A, B, C, D, E. There are 37 questions in the question paper. All questions are compulsory and we have seen all these a while ago. Let's go to straight away section A. We know that section A has 20 multiple choice questions. The very first question is from the lesson Making of a Global World. What helped in the colonization of Asian and African countries? Identify the correct statement from the following options. That's the question. And the correct answer, there are four options there. Intergovernmental policies for the expansion of trade, governmental invite to the mother countries for expansion, technology investments and improvement in transport. That should be the answer, right? And the next one, second one, which of the following newspapers was started by Bal Gangadhar Tilak? It is Kesari. And this question is from the lesson Nationalism in India. Third one, look at this question. This is a picture-based question. So it is imperative that we know all the images and pictures that are there in the textbook. Now the question. Look at the picture given below. Identify the name of the painter of this painting from the following options. And the correct answer is C. Raja Ravi Verma. Note, the following question is for visually impaired candidates only in lieu of question number 3. This is only for visually impaired children. Who among the following was the author of the book Gita Govinda? Jayadeva is the answer. Now the fourth question. Arrange the following in chronological order. Well, this is one type of question where you can follow the method of elimination to find out the answer. Now when you look at all the three options, the first event has to be invention of the printing press. So this one, this one, Johann Gutenberg invented printing press. This has to be the first one. So in the option, this 4 is there in C and D. So rule out B and A. So between C and D, one has to be the answer. So we have to choose between C and D. After Johann Gutenberg invented the printing press, Martin Luther King wrote his pamphlets, and then that eventually led to formation of Protestant sect of Christianity. So the answer should be D. So D is the answer. Next one. Identify the crop with the help of following information. It's a crop which is used both as food and fodder. Now children, look at the option there. Wheat, maize, rice, sugarcane. Among these three, only one is both used as food and fodder majorly, isn't it? So the one information, the very first information is enough for us to arrive at the answer. The answer is maize. You may go through other options too. Next, question number 6. By the way, this question is from the lesson agriculture. Next, the sixth one. Which of the following description of forest is not correct? This question is from the lesson Forest and Wildlife Resources. Now look at the options there. Reserve forest, reservation of more than half of the forest. That's correct. Protected forest, reservation of 1/3 of the forest. That is also correct. Unclassed forest, reservation of forest under government and private individuals. That is also correct. Permanent forest, reserved and unclassed forest for the production of timber. This is not correct, so it is correct answer. So this is the answer. You know that permanent forest includes reserved as well as protected forest. Moving on, next question is match the following question. Here also you can follow the system of elimination if required. I think it's possible. Renewable resources, you know, they renew themselves by physical, chemical, mechanical and biological processes. So renewable resource A, and here the correctly matched one is forest and wildlife. So A1, we have A1 in option A and option D. So the correct answer has to be between A and D. And the second one, non-renewable resources. You know that minerals and fossil fuels are non-renewable resources. So B4, it's there both in A and D. Move on to the third one, national resources. Roads, canals and railways, they are national resources, aren't they? So it is there in A. Just for confirmation, international resources, oceanic resources indeed are international resources. So the correct answer here is A. A1, B4, C3, D2. A is the correct answer. Then the next one. Consider the following statements regarding power sharing arrangements in Belgium and identify the incorrect one from the following. When you glance at those four options given, it's obvious that those points should pertain to Belgian model of power sharing, don't they? Let's read all of them. Equal number of members from Dutch and French community in the central government, that's correct. We are required to identify incorrect one. Please read the question correctly, children. Then separate government for Brussels with equal representation of communities, that's also correct. The state government to be subordinate to the central government, this is wrong. So we have identified the correct answer here. This is C is the incorrect statement. If you can recall the Belgian model of power sharing, one of the provisions states that many powers of the center were taken away and given to provincial governments. And those provincial governments, 10 of them, they are not subordinates to the central government. Then the next one, ninth one. Which of the following subjects comes under legislation of center and state in India? So the question asks us indirectly to identify which of these four falls under concurrent list. When you look at those options, education falls under concurrent list, even forest falls under concurrent list. So this is not a correct question. Banking falls under union list, trade falls under state list. So this is not a correct question. Let's proceed to the 10th one. Next one. Which of the following statements is true regarding feminist movements? Let's read all the options. A group which favors giving more power to working women at rural and urban level. That's not correct. A movement that believes in giving exclusive rights to female in urban centers. That cannot be the case. Radical movements, that is radical women's movements aimed at equality in personal and family life as well. That appears to be correct. And finally, it is the practice of placing feminine and masculine point of view in decision making. No. So C is the correct answer. By the way, this question is from the lesson Gender, Religion and Caste. The previous question is from the lesson Federalism. Next, the 11th one. At the very outset, we can say that this question is from the lesson Political Parties, right? Which of the following pairs is correctly matched? Bharatiya Janata Party, National Democratic Alliance, Congress Party, Left Front? No. Congress Party had nothing to do with Left Front. Left Front is not at all there now. It used to be there a few decades ago. Communist Party of India is not a regional party. Mizo National Front is not part of UPA. So the correctly matched pair is this, A. Bharatiya Janata Party is the leader of National Democratic Alliance. Next, 12th one, assertion and reason question. There are two statements marked as assertion and reason. Mark your answer as per the codes provided below. The assertion is, democracy is an accountable, responsive and legitimate government. And the reason given is, democracies have regular, free and fair elections and decision making is based on norms and procedures. Well, this question is from the lesson Outcomes of Democracy. Democracy can produce accountable, responsive and legitimate government only when it holds free, fair, regular elections. So, option A should be the answer. Both assertion and reason are true and R is the correct explanation of A. Next, 13th one. Which of the following religions was protected and fostered by Sri Lankans in their constitution? Straight away, the answer is C, Buddhism. Next, the 14th one. Read the given data and find out children of which state has attained maximum elementary school education. Well, by the way, this question number 13 is from the lesson Power Sharing. And, well, we have discussed that. This 14th lesson, this 14th question is from the lesson, is on the lesson development. Well, this is an example of interdisciplinary and application-based question. You may have to apply your mathematical skill to find out the answer. The answer is Kerala. And then the next question is also of the same kind. Read the following data and select appropriate option from the following. Well, literacy rate of rural population, the data is given. Literacy rate of rural children in the age group of 10 and 14, the data is given. Percentage of rural children aged 10 to 14 attending school, data is given. Well, the answer is D. Moving on to the 16th one. Find the odd one out from the following options. Tourist guide, barber, tailor, potter, they are in tertiary sector. Teacher, doctor, vegetable vendor, lawyer, they are also in tertiary sector. Postman, cobbler, soldier, police constable, they are in tertiary sector too. Indian Railways, Jet Airways, Doordarshan and Metro. Well, D should be the answer, even though Indian Railways, Jet Airways, Doordarshan, Metro fall under tertiary sector. One of these, Jet Airways, is in private sector and the other three are in public sector. Moving on to the 17th one. It appears to be very simple. It is about classification of Indian economy on various bases. You are required to fill in the gap here, choosing from these four options. The first is primary, secondary and tertiary. You know that classification is based on nature of economic activity. Organized and unorganized sector, that classification is based on the nature of employment activities. A is the answer. Next, 18th one. Read the following information given below and select the correct option. Rohan has taken a loan of 5 lakh from the bank to purchase a house at a 12% rate of interest. He has to submit papers of new house and salary record to the bank. What is this process called as? It's not a process. These documents are called as collateral. The property papers, salary record, they are called collateral. Next, 19th one. Which of the following international agencies allow free trade and work on mutual trade between countries? It has to be World Trade Organization. And the last question, identify the correct statement about globalization. Removal of barriers by the government. Well, this statement goes with globalization, doesn't it? Foreign companies are allowed to set up factories. Even this statement goes with globalization. Has enabled all companies to increase their investment? Not at all. Many small industries have to shut down. They continue to suffer even today because of liberalization and globalization. Has lessened foreign investment and foreign trade? No, what has happened is quite the opposite. So the correct answer is 1 and 2, that is option A. So that's it. That is section A. Let's move on to section B. In this section, there are 4 questions carrying 2 marks each. They are all very short answer questions. I may be taking you to a marking scheme published by the board too. Analyze any 2 factors that were responsible for the Great Depression in America during 1929. As per the answer scheme, agricultural overproduction remained a problem and it was made worse by falling agricultural prices. As prices slumped and agricultural incomes declined, farmers tried to expand production and bring larger volumes of produce to the market, but it pushed down the prices. In the mid-1920s, many countries financed their investment through loans from the US. It was extremely easy to raise loans in the US when the going was good. But in the first half of the 1928, countries that depended crucially on US loans faced an acute crisis. The withdrawal of US loans affected the rest of the world in different ways. In Europe, it led to the failure of small and major banks and the collapse of currencies such as the British pound sterling. Any other relevant point, including the stock market collapse that had rippling effect all over the world, any of those 2 points will fetch you 2 marks. Going back to the question paper, The next question, mention the provisions that constitute India into a secular country. Well, there are a few points. Any two of them will help you get 2 marks. India doesn't have a state religion as some countries have. Indian government doesn't interfere into the religious matters of the people. It does only to protect human rights. For example, untouchability, triple talaq are banned. Every person can practice, profess, propagate the religion of her choice or his choice. Well, any of those 2 points will fetch you 2 marks. The next question, suggest any two ways to conserve energy resources in India. Energy saved is energy earned, isn't it? So, not using electrical appliances when not required, turning off lights and fans when not required at all, carpooling, many of these, walking to workplaces if it's nearby. Any of those two suggestions, if you give, you get 2 marks. And there is a choice question. Suggest any two ways to improve the use of solar energy. You don't find answer for this in the textbook. Well, there are many ways in which we can encourage the use of solar energy. Already the government is giving subsidy to install solar panels. Despite the subsidy, solar panels are still very costly. Research and development should be taken up to reduce the cost of production of solar panels. That could be one of the points. And as it is done in the state of Karnataka and some other states, electricity that is produced at home and in apartment complexes can be purchased by the government if they produce in excess. That would be one of the incentives to produce, rather use more solar energy, both individually and as community members. Any of those 2 points would fetch you 2 marks. And the last one, in what ways government can increase employment in rural sector? Well, providing irrigation facilities like construction of dams will help more number of days employment for the rural people. And then helping people in rural areas to get cheap credit, developing rural infrastructure like development of roadways, railways will help the farmers take their product to the place where there is demand. Opening food processing units, small industries will help generate more employment in rural sector. Any of these 2 points will fetch you 2 marks. Moving on to the next section, section C. These are short answer based questions. There are totally 5 of them. Each carries 3 marks. The first one, how was the social and political situation of India affected by the First World War? Explain. Well, it was very, very difficult time for India, the First World War time. The British had incurred huge loss being in the war. They had to finance their war expenditure by taking huge loans, mostly from the US. And in India, back in India, they introduced income tax, increased export and import duties. Because of all this, prices doubled. There was famine also, epidemic also. Villagers were forcibly recruited into the British army to fight overseas. Any of those 3 points will fetch you 3 marks. Next, how did the Indian merchants and industrialists relate themselves to the civil disobedience movement? Explain. This is the choice question from the same lesson, Nationalism in India. You already have studied in the lesson the age of industrialization, that during the wartime, the industrialists had amassed a lot of wealth. They wanted to expand their business. Their major aim was to decontrol the British over Indian business. You already know that the Indian merchants and producers, they could not trade or produce such goods which the British produced. So they were left with very little space to operate within. So they couldn't expand their business. So they wanted to expand their business. They wanted the British to reduce their control on Indian business. So they supported civil disobedience movement. They supported in many ways. They financed Indian National Congress. They refused to trade in foreign goods. They refused to finance foreign trade. They had established their own association to protect their interests, FICCI, and one more. Any of these 3 points will help you get 3 marks. Next, 26th question. Examine the factors that influence the distribution pattern of railway network in India. Well, if you can visualize the entire country, India has different geographical features, and each of them pose one or the other challenge to Indian railways to develop railway network. In the Himalayas, it is not easy because of mountainous terrain. In the undulating topography of the Rajasthan, it's not easy. Again, it's challenge. It's a challenge there. The northern plains, they are conducive for the development of Indian railways, but the big and wide rivers pose problems. The swampy regions of Gujarat again is a challenging geographical area. The forests of Madhya Pradesh, the plateau region, which is rugged in nature, it's not easy to develop railways there. Even though Konkan Railways is a great achievement, uh, it, you probably know that Konkan Railways developed after constructing many tunnels. It was a great achievement, but still, it is developed in the region. The railway is constructed in the region of very heavy rainfall where railway tracks sink, landslides happen. So, all these things, different geographical features and challenges, that all of them they influence the distribution pattern of railway network in our country. Any three of them will help you get 3 marks. By the way, that question is from the lesson Lifelines of the National Economy. Next, 27th question. In what ways multinational corporations different from other companies? Explain with an example. You can take example of TCS, Infosys, Reliance, any one of them, and you can state how they are different from other companies. A multinational company operates in more than one country. They are guided by the single mode of reducing the cost of production. Their major aim is to maximize profit. Uh, they pressurize the government, they lobby hard with the government for many benefits, like setting up of SEZs, special economic zones, and you find hundreds and thousands of people employed there. And these multinational corporations, they are not only the producers, they are also traders. So any of these 3 points will fetch you 3 marks. And the next one, differentiate between democratic and non-democratic government. This question is from the lesson Outcomes of Democracy. Well, think about all the 5 outcomes that you have studied. Accountable, responsive, legitimate government, that is the political outcome. Economic growth and development, reduction of inequality and poverty, those two economic outcomes. By the way, the first one is political outcome, and the last two, social outcomes. You find many differences there between democratic and non-democratic form of government. First of all, democratic governments are accountable. Non-democratic governments aren't accountable to the people. Democratic governments are formed because of the votes of the people. Non-democratic governments aren't formed thus, right? In democratic government, decisions are taken slowly, but the decision taken are likely to affect the people positively because public opinion is honored. That doesn't happen in non-democratic form of government, right? So any 3 points, democracy can accommodate social diversity, it helps people enjoy dignity, live with dignity and enjoy freedom. These things cannot happen, may not happen in non-democratic governments. Any of the 3 differences will get you 3 marks. And finally, tertiary sector is different from other sectors. Justify the statement with suitable example. You can take the example of activities like that of transportation or the job of a teacher, job of a lawyer. No production takes place there, right? It's just the service that is provided. You can build your argument based on that. Production of any goods doesn't happen in tertiary sector. They help in the development of primary and secondary sector. Primary and secondary sector cannot survive without tertiary sector. So any 3 points that justify why tertiary sector is different from other sectors will fetch you 3 marks. Proceeding to the last section, section D, long answer based question. There are four of them, each of them carries 5 marks. Each of these has internal choice. The first question is from the lesson Rise of Nationalism in Europe. Highlight the various measures and practices that French revolutionaries introduced to create a sense of collective identity amongst the French people. Well, the very first expression of collective belonging emerged in France. They popularized the concept of citizen, la patrie. There are some emotional steps taken, practical measures taken. Mention any five of them, you will get 5 marks. And then highlight the role of Otto von Bismarck in making of Germany. What a shrewd politician he was, probably the greatest of his time. Well, he write about his role, the role that he played when Prussia ultimately became Germany after the three wars over 7 years. Well, when you write the exact role played by Otto von Bismarck, you get marks. Shall I? So cut that. Highlight the role of Otto von Bismarck in making up Germany. What a great, shrewd politician he was, wasn't he? Write about his role when Russia went against war. Sorry, cut that. Write about his role when Prussia engaged three countries in three wars over 7 years, which culminated in the unification of Germany. And write till coronation. You will get 5 marks. Next, examine the reasons for the location of most of the jute mills in West Bengal. Apparently, a very simple question. It is proximity to jute growing areas, cheap labor from adjoining states, and then availability of abundant water from River Hooghly. Kolkata provides banking, finance, port facilities, and any of those 5 points will get you 5 marks. And examine the multi-pronged aspects of information technology and electronic industry. Well, these two questions are from the lesson Manufacturing Industries. Well, IT and electronic industry is fast growing in our country. It's growing very fast in our country. It covers a wide range of products. It includes both hardware and software, right from pagers to TVs to ICs, whatnot. And by the way, recently Vedanta has agreed to open chip manufacturing industry in Gujarat. It's going to invest billions of dollars there. Well, India will probably reduce its import of chips which are required in every electronic gadgets very soon. So India is emerging as not only software giant but also hardware giant. So this IT industry comprises both hardware and software. Bengaluru is the IT capital of India. There are many other centers as well. It is the largest employer, one of the largest employers, and it is one of the largest employers of women also. We can take some examples, real examples. How many women employers are there in Infosys? How many of them are there in TCS? It's easy to know. You can include them in your answer to make your answer more appealing. Next, describe the role of political parties in India. The choice question is describe the necessity or utility of political parties in democratic countries. Well, these questions are from the lesson Political Parties. It has been the convention for long that the 5-mark question in democratic politics is asked on the lesson Political Parties. It may not be the case in the final exam. Well, political parties, describe the role of political parties. Out of those many roles, many functions, you have to answer any 5 of them. They contest elections, they put forth policies and programs for the people to choose from. They play a decisive role in making laws. They form and run the government. the role of the opposition. They shape public opinion. It's easier to get the work done by a politician than a government officer. They act as link between ordinary citizens and the government machinery and welfare schemes. Explain any five of them, you'll get 5 marks. The choice question is describe the necessity or utility of political parties in democratic countries. Uh, well, your answer could begin with we need political parties for the functions that they perform. Other than that, what could happen if political parties do not contest elections? In the absence of political parties, elections can take place theoretically, but all the candidates would be independent. None of them would be able to make big promises and take up bigger responsibilities because ultimately they are answerable to the people of their constituencies. So we need political parties, and you can even take example of what happens in village panchayati elections, where political parties theoretically don't contest. Uh, Village society is divided into factions, and each of those factions nominate panel of members to contest from different parts. The gist is that we need political parties to represent social divisions. And you should also write about the rise of political parties as we at that. You should also write about the emergence of political parties parallel to the emergence of representative democracy, and also the need of political party in such a complex society. We need an agency to gather multitude of opinions on multitude of issues people have from north to south and east to west. If you take example of India, there can be millions of opinions, right? So we need some agency to collect them and present them to the government. We need political parties to act as such agencies. And we also need political parties to act as a platform for elected representatives to come together. We need parties to run the government efficiently and even to oppose the government if the government takes wrong steps, to restrain the government from taking wrong measures. You can conclude that the political parties thus are necessary conditions in democracy. Finally, the last question is from the lesson Money and Credit. Explain the role of self-help groups in rural society. And the choice question is explain the significance of the Reserve Bank of India in the Indian economy. Well, self-help groups are the building blocks of rural economy. First, mention what are the drawbacks of informal source of credit and how people suffer from that. That is the problem statement, and the solution is establishment of self-help groups formed of 15, 16 women who pull in their savings. They help themselves by carrying out lending activities amongst themselves for various activities like purchasing a few bags of fertilizers, repairing agricultural implements, or buying sewing machines. And they also fulfill social responsibilities. They discuss domestic violence, dowry, and such other things. Mention all of them in your answer. And finally, the choice question. Explain the significance of the Reserve Bank of India in Indian economy. Well, write about their functions. Reserve Bank of India mints coins, prints currencies. The governor assures the bearer of the note the sum of money that is promised. You know that currency note is also called as promissory note because the governor makes a promise that the currency note has so much of value. That's a function in itself. And then it ensures that every bank maintains CRR, that is cash reserve ratio. Reserve Bank of India also gives loans to banks. It's called, the rate of interest is called as repo rate. Reserve Bank of India reserves foreign exchange. You may search how much foreign exchange Reserve Bank of India presently has. It's about $580 billion worth or so as of now. Well, if you include all these points in your answer, that's it. Okay. And in fact, the profit of Reserve Bank of India is also the profit of Government of India. Hmm? Fine. Next, Let's go to section E, that is case-based questions. There are uh, three case-based questions. Each of them carries 4 marks. The first one, read the source given below and answer the questions that follow. Will Thorne is one of those who went in search of seasonal work, loading bricks and doing odd jobs. He describes how job seekers walk to London in search of work. I had always wanted to go to London, and my desire was stimulated by letters from an old workmate who was now working at Old Kent Road Gas Works. I finally decided to go in November 1881. With two friends, I started out to walk the journey, filled with hope that we need to be able to obtain employment. When we got there, with the kind assistance of my friend, we had little money when we started, not enough to pay for our food and lodging each night until we arrived in London. Some days we walked as much as 20 miles and other days less. Our money was gone at the end of the third day. For 2 nights we slept out, once under a haystack and once in an old farm shed. On arrival in London, we tried to find my friend but were unsuccessful. Our money was gone, so there was nothing for us to do but walk around until late at night and then try to find some place to sleep. We found an old building and slept in that night. Slept in it, slept in it that night. The next day, Sunday, late in the afternoon, we got out to the Old Kent Gas Works and applied for work. To my great surprise, the man we had been looking for was working at the time. He spoke to the foreman and I was given a job. Well, this is taken from the lesson Age of Industrialization and the questions. Analyze the major factor which let London become an attractive place for job seekers. Well, there were many industries that came up in London. There was unemployment in rural areas. So many people went to London, thronged London, hoping to get some job. And then the second question, analyze the reason for the appointment of Wilthorne by Old Kent Gas Works. Well, gas works was one of the industries that worked only seasonally. It was seasonal industry. Probably Winthorne went there. Look at when did he go? November, right? November 1881. So winter was the time when gas industries and breweries they needed more workers. So this person got a job there. That's how you analyze. And third one, examine the preference of hand labor over machines by industrialists of the Victorian Britain. Well, you don't find answer for this question in this paragraph. Uh, well, machines were very costly, they frequently broke down, repair was costly, and similar kind of only same looking similar kind of products could be produced by machines. Variety could not be achieved in machines. Variety could be achieved only by hand labor. So, and hand labor was cheaper than machines. For these reasons, Victorian Britons preferred uh, hand labor over machines. That should be the answer. The next one, read the given extract and answer the following question. Narmada Bachao Andolan or Save Narmada movement is a non-governmental organization that mobilized tribal people, farmers, environmentalists, and human rights activists against the Sardar Sarovar Dam being built across the Narmada River in Gujarat. It originally focused on the environmental issues related to trees that would be submerged under the dam water. Recently, it has refocused the aim to enable poor citizens, especially the outseas, that is, displaced people, to get full rehabilitation facilities from the government. People felt that their suffering would not be in vain, accepted the trauma of displacement, believing in the promise of irrigated fields and plentiful harvests. So often the survivors of Rihand told us that they accepted their sufferings as sacrifice for the sake of the nation. But now, after 30 bitter years of being adrift, their livelihood having even been more precarious, they could they keep asking, are we the only ones chosen to make sacrifices for the nation? Well, the questions now. With what objective Sardar Sarovar Dam was built? Well, do you find answer for this question in the paragraph? No. So the objective of any dam is to generate electricity, to provide drinking water facility to people who live in the nearby villages, towns, and cities, and also to provide irrigation facility for the farmland in the vicinity. So that can be your answer. Analyze the reason for the protest by tribal people. Well, why did the tribal people protest? They lose their way of life. That's the major thing, right? Uh, it is not only losing land. The protest is about losing the way of life and not fulfilling the promises made by the government. And then last one, highlight the issues on which Save Narmada movement worked on. Well, you find answer in this paragraph itself. It originally focused on environmental issues related to trees that would be submerged under the dam water. And recently, it has refocused the aim to enable poor citizens, especially the displaced people, to get full rehabilitation facilities from the government. That can be your answer. Moving to the next one, the last case-based question. Read the extract and answer the following questions. Power sharing arrangements can also be seen in the way political parties, pressure groups, and movements control or influence those in power. In a democracy, the citizens must have freedom to choose among various contenders for power. In contemporary democracies, this takes the form of competition among different parties. Such competition ensures that power doesn't remain in one hand. In the long run, power is shared among different political parties that represent different ideologies and social groups. Sometimes this kind of sharing can be direct when two or more parties form an alliance to contest elections. If their alliance is elected, they form a coalition government and thus share power. In a democracy, we find interest groups such as those of traders, businessmen, industrialists, farmers, and industrial workers. They also will have share in governmental power either through participation in governmental committees or bringing influence on decision making process. This paragraph is taken from the lesson power sharing. Now the question. Power sharing is an essential component of democracy. Give one example to prove the statement. Well, you can take any of the moral reasons or prudential reasons to prove that power sharing is an essential component of democracy. Most importantly, it reduces conflict between different social groups, makes administration easy, any of those prudential or moral reasons. Next, how is alliance building an example of power sharing? Now, this alliance building is about different political parties forming political alliances like UPA and NDA. Well, it's an example of power sharing because when a political alliance comes to power, a coalition government is formed. It's not only that only one party enjoys power, many political parties enjoy power simultaneously. That's also power sharing, isn't it? And then the last question, how political parties, pressure groups, and movements help in controlling or influencing those who are in power. Well, political parties are of two kinds, ruling party and opposition party. The question is about the opposition parties here. These opposition parties, pressure groups, and movements, they pressurize the government to make policy changes. Political parties always oppose the ruling party, mostly whatever the ruling party does. At times, they are for genuine reasons as well. And pressure groups and movement groups, they pressurize the government by various means. They go on strike, they disrupt government functioning, they carry out protest marches, even political parties do. They also get into decision-making committee, they lobby with the government to change the decision in their favor. That's how they control and influence those who are in power. So that is the last section, last but one section. Let's go to section F, map skill based questions. Look at the question 37A. Two places A and B have been marked on the given outline map of India. Identify them and write their correct names on the lines drawn near them. Indian National Congress session at this place in 1920. The place where Mahatma Gandhi broke salt law. Let's go to the map. If it is September 1920 and this place is Kolkata and Gandhiji broke salt law at Dandi. Going back to the map to see geography questions. On the same outline map of India, locate and label any three of the following with suitable symbols. Hirakud Dam, Tarapur Atomic Power Station, Noida Software Technology Park, and Kochi Port. Out of these four, you are required to locate and label any three. At this juncture, let me take you to my website, engross.in. If you scroll down and locate this map nationalism in India, you will get to see the map syllabus as well as the video of the same. You can watch it and practice it. Better still, if you go to geography and click on take map test, you will come to this page where you can click on any of these lessons to practice map items. For example, if I click on water resources, it will take you here, and it is just the matter of practicing by dragging and dropping those map items to appropriate places. For example, Salal is there in Jammu and Kashmir, Rana Pratap Sagar in Rajasthan, Tehri in Uttarakhand, Sardar Sarovar in Gujarat, Tungabhadra in Karnataka, Bhakra Nangal in Himachal Pradesh, Nagarjun Sagar on the borders of Telangana and Andhra Pradesh, and then Hirakud in Odisha. When you practice this time and again, it will help you to score easily 5 marks. Then, to be even more confident, I have also given you opportunity to place the names of the dam against the names of the states they belong to. So for this, you need to be able to identify the states. Well, again, Nagarjun Sagar, Telangana and Andhra Pradesh, Sardar Sarovar in Gujarat, so on and so forth. Himachal Pradesh, Tungabhadra in Karnataka, Salal in Jammu and Kashmir. Oh, why did it run away? And Rana Pratap Sagar in Rajasthan, Hirakud in Odisha, Bhakra Nangal in Uttarakhand. You can check your answers too. Well, there are 2 wrong answers there, right? Fine. So you can retry and perfect it. That's it. You can scroll down to go to the next lesson. That's it, children. That is the analysis of the question paper.